I worked double shifts and skipped family gatherings just to fund her business dreams. But she spent those business trips in hotel rooms with a man who couldn't even afford his own rent. Before watching the video, please tell us in the comments, which country are you watching from? My name is Ethan Harris, and I am 36 years old. When I first met Claire, she wasn't just my wife. She was my world. We were young, ambitious, and convinced that together we could build something extraordinary. She dreamed of starting her own marketing firm, and I wanted to make that dream real. I took extra shifts at the garage, skipped holidays, and saved every dollar. Watching her succeed felt like watching my own heart grow wings. We started small. I remember helping her design her first logo on my old laptop. She'd sit beside me late at night, planning ideas while I fixed broken engines during the day. When her first client came through, she hugged me and said, "We did it." Those 3 words made every sacrifice worth it. I thought we were unstoppable. Months turned into years, and her business took off. She started hiring staff, traveling to meet clients, and earning more than I ever imagined. I was proud, genuinely proud. I'd tell everyone, my wife's running her own company, and it made me feel like her biggest supporter. But sometimes, success builds walls instead of bridges. Claire started coming home later, her perfume stronger, her phone glued to her hand. When I'd ask how her day was, she'd reply with half answers, quick, shallow ones that left no room for follow-up. I didn't want to seem controlling, so I smiled and said nothing. Love, I thought, means trust, so I trusted her blindly. Then came the business trips. "It's just 3 days, Ethan," she'd say, kissing my forehead. "Big clients mean big opportunities." I'd nod and wish her luck, never questioning where she was really going. I didn't know that every goodbye at the airport carried another secret I hadn't earned but was forced to inherit. I'd spend those nights working late, sending her goodnight texts that went unanswered until morning. She'd always say, "Sorry, baby, the meetings ran long." I believed her every time. My friends would joke about how successful women get distant, but I defended her like a fool. I said, "Not Claire. She's different." The truth is, I wanted to believe I hadn't sacrificed everything for nothing. I wanted to think all those nights alone were building a future, not hiding a betrayal. But deep down, there was a faint whisper in my chest, something quiet and sharp, telling me that love built on trust can crumble in silence. I ignored it. I told myself we were fine. I told myself every late-night call, every missed text, every change in her tone meant nothing. But deep down, I knew better. I just wasn't ready to face it yet. The first time Claire mentioned traveling for work, I didn't think twice. She said her company was expanding, and she needed to meet potential investors in another city. I was proud of her confidence, proud of the woman she had become. "I'll make us proud, Ethan," she said, smiling. I kissed her goodbye at the station, never realizing I was watching her step into a world where I didn't exist. When she returned 3 days later, she was glowing, radiant in a way I hadn't seen in months. She talked nonstop about how productive the trip had been, how important people had noticed her ideas. I listened, nodding, feeling grateful that her hard work was paying off. But somewhere deep down, something felt off. Her eyes sparkled, but not for me. Her laughter sounded lighter, like it belonged to someone else. The trips became more frequent after that. First once every 2 months, then every few weeks. She said the business was growing fast, and investors demanded in-person meetings. "You'll understand once we hit our next milestone," she'd tell me, packing her suitcase with care. Each time I'd watch her leave with that same hopeful smile, telling myself this was temporary. "Success takes time," I kept repeating in my head, trying to drown the growing ache in my chest. Her phone habits changed too. She started keeping it locked, always face down on the table. When it rang, she'd step into another room to answer. "Just a client," she'd say afterward, her tone too quick, too defensive. I wanted to believe her, so I forced myself to. I told myself she was just protecting her business, not her secrets. One evening, while we were having dinner, I noticed she was distracted. She kept glancing at her watch, tapping her fork against the plate. "Everything okay?" I asked. She smiled faintly. "Just a work text, nothing serious." 10 minutes later, she excused herself to take a call. She never came back to finish her meal. When I found her on the balcony, she was whispering into her phone, smiling the way she used to smile at me. I walked back quietly, pretending I hadn't seen it. My heart was pounding, but my mind refused to accept what it already knew. Love makes you blind on purpose. It gives you hope when you should have doubt. That night, she fell asleep quickly, her back turned to me. I stared at the ceiling, wondering when our bed had become a wall between us. The next morning, she said she had another trip coming up. "Just 2 nights this time," she promised, kissing me before leaving. Her lips were soft, but they felt like strangers. As I watched her drive away, something inside me whispered, "You're losing her, and she doesn't even care." I just didn't know then that this trip wouldn't be about business at all. It would be the beginning of the end. The lies didn't start loud. They crept in quietly, dressed as excuses. Claire began calling them minor details, things she didn't need to explain. But small lies are like cracks in glass. Once they start, they spread, until nothing stays whole. One night she said her flight was delayed, but I checked the airline app and saw the plane had landed hours earlier. When I asked, she smiled. "Oh, I must have mixed up the times." Her tone was light, but her eyes didn't match. My heart didn't believe her, but my love wanted to. So I swallowed the doubt and said nothing. The next week, she came home with a new scarf I hadn't seen before, expensive silk, designer brand. "A gift from a client," she said, folding it neatly into her drawer. I nodded, pretending not to notice the faint smell of cologne that wasn't mine. That scent lingered in the air for days, haunting me more than any argument ever could. The messages on her phone changed too. Once open and ordinary, now hidden behind passwords and notifications turned off. When her screen lit up, she tilted away, claiming she was protecting confidential work details. I wanted to believe her, but I wasn't blind. Trust doesn't vanish all at once. It dies in moments like that, silent but certain. Even the way she said my name began to shift. It sounded forced, like she was remembering how to sound loving. She'd hug me quickly before leaving, but her touch felt distant. Once, I offered to drive her to the airport, but she refused, saying a coworker would drop her off. That coworker's name never appeared again in any story she told afterward. My gut screamed, but my mind stayed in denial. Every time I looked at her, I saw the woman I had built my life around, the woman I'd sacrificed everything for. I kept telling myself, she wouldn't do this to me. But deep down, I already knew she was. Then, one evening, I caught her in a simple mistake. She said she was in Denver for a meeting, but the photo she sent had palm trees swaying behind her. "Nice weather," I texted back. She replied, "Yeah, Denver's warm this week." I stared at that message, realizing she didn't even bother checking her lies anymore. She believed I'd never catch on. That night, I sat alone at the kitchen table, her empty wine glass across from mine. I replayed every moment in my head, every laugh, every hug, every goodbye at the door. All the pieces started falling into place, and I finally saw the truth forming in front of me. The business trips, the late calls, the excuses. It was all a story she built, and I was the fool who believed every chapter. My heart wasn't just breaking, it was waking up. What would you do if someone you loved betrayed you like this? Comment below. It happened by accident. One evening, Claire left her purse on the couch before heading to the shower. I wasn't looking for anything, but when I reached to move it aside, something slipped out, a folded piece of paper. It was a hotel receipt. My heart stopped before my hands even touched it. The name at the top read The Fairfield Downtown, dated 2 weeks earlier. The same week she said she was in Chicago for a client meeting. The charge wasn't for a conference room or business dinner. It was for a suite, 1 bed, 2 nights, paid in cash. My throat went dry. I looked closer and noticed the receipt listed 2 breakfast orders, both for 2 guests. I didn't need to guess who the other person was. I sat there in silence, my pulse hammering in my ears. My mind wanted to deny it, but the paper in my hand screamed truth. For years I'd trusted her without question. Now the trust lay broken between my shaking fingers. When Claire came out of the shower, humming softly, I forced myself to stay calm. "Rough day?" she asked, drying her hair. "You have no idea," I said quietly, slipping the receipt back into her purse. She didn't notice. Maybe she never thought I'd look. Maybe she never thought I'd care enough to. That night, I lay beside her, pretending to sleep, every breath she took sounding like another lie. My mind replayed the image of that receipt again and again, burning the date into my memory. 2 weeks ago, she was in a hotel with someone else while I was home cooking dinner, texting her, "Good night, love you." The words tasted like poison now. The next morning, when she left for another meeting, I decided to look deeper. Her office calendar had been open on her laptop the night before. I logged in using her saved password. What I found made my chest ache. There were no meetings, no client notes, just empty days and blocks of time labeled travel. I started checking her travel bag next. More receipts, different cities, same hotel chain. One from Austin, one from San Diego, another from Seattle. Each one told the same story. Different dates, same lie. I realized this wasn't one mistake. It was a pattern, a carefully crafted double life. My body felt cold, but my mind was sharp. The pain was real, but so was the clarity. I wasn't imagining things anymore. I wasn't crazy. I had proof. When Claire came home that evening, I greeted her like nothing was wrong. I smiled, kissed her cheek, and told her I'd made dinner. She looked relaxed, unaware that the foundation of her lies was already crumbling. I sat across from her at the table, watching her eat, wondering how she could taste food with a mouthful of deceit. That receipt had done more than expose her. It had woken me up. The man she thought she could keep in the dark was already planning to bring her truth into the light. After finding those receipts, silence became my greatest weapon. I didn't confront Claire right away. Instead, I decided to watch, to learn, to understand how deep her betrayal ran. Anger could wait. I wanted truth, complete, undeniable truth. Her next trip came sooner than expected. "Just a quick weekend in Dallas," she said casually, zipping her suitcase. "I'll be home before you even miss me." I smiled, pretending to believe her, pretending to still be the same trusting husband she thought I was. But this time, I wasn't staying home. Once she left, I waited an hour before getting in my car. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than ever before. The GPS on her phone was still connected to mine, a feature she'd once set up for safety. Ironically, it would become the key to her undoing. The small blue dot on the screen pulsed, showing me exactly where she was headed. 5 hours later, I pulled into the same city, the same hotel listed on one of those old receipts. I parked across the street, watching the entrance. The lights from the lobby glowed against the night sky, cold and indifferent. My heart raced, not from fear, but from the quiet acceptance of what I already knew I'd see. And there she was. Claire stepped out of a taxi, laughing softly, wearing that same red coat I'd bought her last Christmas. But she wasn't alone. A man walked beside her, his hand resting on her lower back like it belonged there. He was younger, lean, confident. I recognized him instantly. Eric, one of her business partners. I'd met him once at a company dinner. Back then, he shook my hand with respect. Now, that same hand was holding what used to be mine. They entered the hotel together. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. I sat in my car, staring at the revolving door spinning slowly behind them, sealing the truth once and for all. The reality was brutal, but clean. I had seen it with my own eyes. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by a stranger who smiled at another man the way she once smiled at me. Hours passed before I drove home. The road stretched endlessly in front of me, my thoughts heavy but calm. I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't crying either. The anger had turned to stillness, a strange kind of peace that only comes when pain has nowhere else to go. When she returned 2 days later, she kissed my cheek and said, "I missed you." I looked into her eyes and almost laughed. For the first time, I saw right through her. I didn't need confessions anymore. I already had confirmation, the kind no words could deny. That night, I made a quiet promise to myself. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't break things. I'd expose her with the same calm precision she used to deceive me. Her lies were silent. So would be my revenge. After that night outside the hotel, I knew emotion alone wouldn't be enough. I needed evidence that couldn't be denied, proof strong enough to destroy her mask in front of everyone who ever believed her lies. So I started collecting everything: receipts, screenshots, call records, and credit card statements. Every small detail she thought was invisible became a weapon in my hands. Each document felt like a nail sealing the coffin of our marriage. I kept everything organized in a single folder: dates, times, and hotel chains. When I scrolled through the images and payment histories, I saw a pattern of deceit that stretched further back than I'd imagined. Claire had been lying for more than a year. That knowledge didn't break me. It steeled me. The man she thought she could manipulate was gone. I found her old emails next. She'd deleted most of them, but digital footprints never truly disappear. I used data recovery software and watched message after message reappear on the screen. Private jokes, meeting confirmations, flirty exchanges. My heart didn't race anymore. It just hardened. Every word she had written to that man was another brick in the wall I was building between who I was and who I'd become. Once I had everything, I started planning. I didn't want confrontation. I wanted exposure. I wanted the same public applause that had lifted her career to witness her fall. Her company's investor dinner was approaching, the perfect stage. She would stand there as the proud CEO, thanking everyone for believing in her, unaware that I was about to show them who she really was. I rehearsed my plan carefully. The flash drive was ready, loaded with her receipts, emails, and photos. I even gave the file a name that would blend in: Integrity Presentation. I practiced what I would say, how I'd walk up to the podium, how calm I'd sound when I spoke. The key to revenge, I realized, wasn't fury. It was composure. The calmer I stayed, the deeper the knife would twist. On the night of the event, I dressed sharply and smiled at the mirror. The reflection staring back wasn't a broken man. It was someone resurrected by truth. When I arrived, the room was buzzing with pride. Investors congratulated Claire. Employees toasted her success. She looked radiant under the lights, glowing with the confidence of someone who believed her lies would never catch her. When she spotted me, she looked surprised but pleased. "You came," she said softly. I smiled. Wouldn't miss it for the world. As the speeches began, I waited patiently, the flash drive warm in my pocket. Every cheer, every laugh around her felt like gasoline on dry wood. I knew that once I struck the match, there would be no turning back. That night, her empire of lies would crumble before the same crowd that built it, and for the first time, she'd know exactly what it felt like to lose everything she used to own. If you were in my place, would you forgive or walk away? Tell me in comments. The room was filled with laughter and clinking glasses when I arrived. The air smelled of champagne, pride, and pretense. Claire stood near the stage, radiant as ever, surrounded by her team and investors. She looked like everything success was supposed to be: confident, powerful, untouchable. But beneath that smile, I saw the woman who had lied, cheated, and turned love into a transaction. Tonight, she would face the truth she buried beneath all that glitter. When our eyes met, she smiled softly. "I didn't think you'd come," she said, touching my arm lightly. "I wanted to surprise you," I replied, my voice steady. She had no idea how true that was. I slipped my hand into my jacket pocket, feeling the cold metal of the flash drive. It was small, but it carried the weight of everything she'd destroyed. The speeches began. One by one, her partners praised her brilliance, her leadership, her unwavering honesty. Each word echoed through the room like a cruel joke. I waited patiently, pretending to listen, pretending to clap. My heartbeat was slow, deliberate, synchronized with the plan I'd rehearsed 100 times. When her name was called to speak, she stepped forward proudly, the applause washing over her like validation she didn't deserve. "Before Claire shares her incredible journey," the host said, "her husband wanted to say a few words." Every head turned toward me. Claire's eyes widened slightly. I smiled. "Thank you," I said, walking to the stage. "I just wanted to show a small presentation to honor her dedication and sacrifices." The flash drive slid smoothly into the laptop. The screen flickered to life. A photo appeared, not a company image, but a hotel invoice. Murmurs rippled through the audience. I clicked again. Another image, an email thread titled, "Last night was unforgettable." Then another, a photo of Claire laughing beside her lover in a hotel lobby. The room fell silent, the kind of silence that burns. Claire froze, color draining from her face. "Ethan," she whispered, voice cracking, "what are you doing?" I didn't answer. I just kept clicking, one slide after another. Dates, receipts, pictures. Every lie, every trip, every excuse she'd ever made was now in front of the people who once admired her. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered, "Oh my God." Her business partner lowered his head. The host tried to stop me, but I kept going until the last slide appeared. Her smiling selfie from the same night she told me she loved me over the phone. I turned to the audience and said quietly, "This is the cost of her success." Claire stumbled back, tears blurring her mascara, her world crumbling in front of everyone she'd fooled. I unplugged the flash drive, pocketed it, and walked off the stage without another word. The whispers grew louder behind me, but I didn't care. I didn't need applause. The truth was the only sound I wanted to hear. As I stepped outside, the cool night air hit my face like freedom. I had exposed her, not to destroy her, but to finally free myself from the weight of pretending. That night, I didn't feel victory, just peace. The kind of peace that only comes when the truth has finally spoken for you. If you were in my place, would you forgive or walk away? Tell me in comments. The morning after the exposure felt unreal. The phone wouldn't stop buzzing, calls, messages, apologies from people who had witnessed the collapse. But I ignored them all. I didn't want sympathy, and I didn't want explanations. I wanted quiet. After months of lies, silence finally felt sacred. Claire didn't come home that night. I didn't expect her to. By dawn, the news had spread through her company. The board suspended her position and investors pulled out. Her empire fell faster than I imagined, built too high on foundations too weak to hold truth. By noon, I received a message from her. Just 5 words. I never meant to hurt you. I stared at it for a long time, then deleted it without replying. Some words don't deserve an answer. Days passed, and the chaos faded into background noise. Neighbors whispered, friends avoided eye contact, but I didn't care. For years, I had lived under her shadow, measuring my worth against her success. Now that shadow was gone, and for the first time, I could see the world clearly. I realized revenge wasn't about destroying her. It was about freeing myself from the illusion I'd been living in. I spent the following weeks cleaning the house, not just physically, but emotionally. Every drawer I opened was a reminder of a memory I needed to release. I threw out her old perfume bottles, her travel souvenirs, her business cards. The place started to feel lighter, almost new. I wasn't erasing her. I was reclaiming myself. One evening, I drove past her old office building. The lights were off, the sign half removed. It was strange how something once so powerful could vanish so quickly. I parked across the street and sat in silence. For a long time, I thought revenge would give me satisfaction. But standing there, I realized peace came not from what I'd done, but from finally letting go. A few days later, I met with an old friend who owned a small repair shop. He offered me a job, and I accepted. Working with my hands again felt good. The simplicity of it reminded me of who I was before ambition and betrayal tangled my life into something unrecognizable. I came home tired each day, but it was an honest kind of exhaustion, the kind that builds, not breaks. Months passed quietly. I stopped checking her social media, stopped wondering where she was. People asked if I ever forgave her. I told them forgiveness isn't about her, it's about peace. Some wounds don't heal with apologies, they heal with distance. One evening, as I locked up the shop, I looked up at the sky. The stars were faint but steady. I smiled, realizing that even after storms, the sky always clears. I was no longer the man who lived for someone else's dreams. I was my own again. This is how my wife betrayed me. Should I forgive or move on? Tell me in comments. If this story meant something to you, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these real stories alive.